Welcome back. This is Marcelo from Bio Insights. This is the podcast that we will discuss physiological data, the health and fitness industry, and how sometimes data, biometric data, business data relates to the bigger message in the industry, the lifestyle of members, of clients, of patients. So if you've been here before, you know that I usually talk to the leaders in the industry. And today joining me is Bob Esquerre, who is a seasoned professional in the health and fitness industry for 38 years. He is a business and growth strategist and operational analyst. I've heard him referred to as Mr. Green Thumb. I've worked with him at Equinox in 2000, from pretty much the later 90s to the early 2000s, where we had a really cool opportunity from a business standpoint. Now that I just wrapped up my MBA, I saw 3 clubs operationally grow to 36 clubs, grow to it being sold to Related. And a large part of it has to do with creating net income profit for clubs and studios and professionals. And Bob has that experience that spans various roles, including Group X, personal training, fitness directors, business solutions. And, for me to have this conversation with him again, and I routinely stay in touch with him over the last 25 plus years, he's been a mentor to me. I strongly recommend any owner and operator, trainer that's just either in the industry or just started in the industry, really to pay attention to this, because we're going to talk about, as an educated consumer, why should anyone join a club, a studio, select a personal trainer for their services. And this is something that applies not only to the gym industry, but applies to business, because that's really what he does really well. It's those business skills that are sometimes misused, but I think if you're really disciplined and you're consistent, you're going to get a great result. So to get us started, I would love, I know you recently finished a presentation at the end of last year talking about what I want to talk about today. And maybe you could talk about how, as a credentialed fitness professional, why should anyone join a staff, a gym, a business, or even refer to an organization? Because that was something part of your presentation. I know that you might want to share some slides. If you want, go ahead. But I think really let's start the conversation there, and we can see where this all goes.
All right. Woo! Well, the good thing is you didn't call me an old man, so that's good. Seasoned, experienced, but not an old man. But that's okay.
We got the same hairstyles,
That being said, here we are, 2025. We just came out of 2024. So as a club owner, operator, or studio owner, operator, manager, and or fit pro, the question overall is, what are we doing different in 2025 that we did in 2024? And that's going to be based on why are we making a change? So let's talk about 4 problems. Problems in that we had in 2024 are really challenges and opportunities to overcome. So we have problems / challenges, but really they're opportunities to overcome. So I have 4, my big 4. We look at customer retention has always been a multiple decade problem across the board, which has never been solved. And we have a couple of ideas as to how to solve that. Number 1, client as a personal trainer, client recruitment and retention. Important. Bigger picture, staff recruitment, staff retention, and overall for everyone is business growth, both gross income, which is always a big number, but what's not really addressed or appreciated is net income, profitability after expenses. So those are my big 4. What's common among all those 4 components is a question of we have a consumer base now that pre-COVID really didn't have a lot of choices. The reality of COVID hit us, which forced us to go virtual, which forced us to go outside a club or studio to get our goals and objectives taken care of. So that addresses really the 20% in terms of the US market that are engaged in our clubs.
Hmm.
So we tend to fight constantly for the same 20% and totally ignore the 80+% that we don't touch, which is a whole other conversation, which is a whole other podcast.
Yeah.
That's a disaster we have to fix going forward. But we can't address that 80% until we fix what's wrong with the 20%. So it's a basic challenge. Retention, go ahead.
No, I want to stop you there because I want to ask a question about that. So just to frame it, it sounds like if I had to start this and put this on a line, it's kind of that what's the utility of what we're going to be doing at our club and what's the experience we're hoping to deliver?
Yes. And as you look at that utility, I redefine that. What's the value proposition?
Oh.
At the end of the day, because of COVID, customers now who are more educated have choices. So we become one of multiple choices. So the burden is on us to prove to that educated consumer who has more choices now that we should be their first choice. That's the challenge because we've never had to do that before. Now, there are fit pros and there are clubs and there are studios who have gravitated to that, who've embraced that, who get that message, who are doing really, really well. That's the exception as opposed to the rule. The rule is the majority of our folks don't get that at all. So when I go into a club and I work out, for example, I watch what's happening in the club and I'm saying to myself, okay, why am I here? Why should I stay here? But then the question is, why should I pay for fee-based programming? Is there something about this club that an educated consumer is going to want to embrace and engage with? That's the challenge right there. We still have clubs who love selling, for example, personal training at the point of sale at a discounted price. Now, here's the point. At a discounted price, which means they're selling on price. Then when they use that package up, they expect the trainer to upsell them from a cheap price as opposed to a perception of value.
Yeah.
We have a major disconnect there. We should not be discounting anything if it's positioned as value.
Yeah.
That's a major problem for us. We don't appreciate value. We are still price focused to our detriment.
Yeah.
But now, if we have no value, maybe that's our end game. Shame on us. That's our mistake.
I mean, you're
So how do
bringing
we
up,
fix that mistake?
you're bringing up a huge pain point that the business
Exactly.
model, the business model is still the same, right? It's still the same as it was in Jack LaLanne. It's a reoccurring revenue generation model that's based on membership. And
Right,
then
exactly.
then they're looking at what you're talking about is the value, right? And the luxury, right? So you want to make it look like luxurious, but at low value, and that's not logical. You still have to pay to support that. You still have to have someone that delivers that, and then you have to have the right equipment and experience and to create that value. And
Exactly. So if the value is not defined, the experience is going to be suboptimized or have no experience at all. It's just like anybody else. And there's
yeah,
nothing special about that. That's a
yeah,
major problem. Again, I'm an educated consumer with more choices post-COVID than I had pre-COVID. So
yeah,
now how do I tie in to the new consumer insight with all those choices? I've got to create a value proposition. I've got to create a reason for them to join on value, to stay on value, but more importantly, to refer on value,
yeah, yeah,
which we don't do. So this is where we have a problem with retention because we only focus on retention as a separate entity. We should be focusing on the customer across the board, which starts before they come in, when they come in, when they join, so they can stay and they can refer because of the experience
yeah.
of the value that we bring to their table, not bringing them to us, but what they get from us in terms of programming that's specific to them.
It, it,
Critical. And most
it,
folks don't have that at all.
no, you're also talking about now 4 generations of a workforce that are present in this environment and it's an old business model. So then you're creating a model, you have pricing, and you have competition that you're talking about. How are you talking to them? Are they skilled enough? Are we building systems that actually scale this? And I think what ended up, I don't know how and why, but like somewhere early mid 2000s, we just stopped doing, the skill development work. And then once uh, I would say the pandemic, and this is my opinion, so I don't want anyone that wants to attack me. Um, I've seen it to prove me if I'm wrong, but soft skills are different. Gen Z, millennials want to consume in content or communicate, or in some cases avoid conversation. And that's not really running an effective business. I mean, an effective business has a proper persona, has a proper communication, has a proper process in place. And you're measuring it. And at the end of the day, what's the desired outcome? Are you generating more dollars? And are you keeping those dollars there longer if you're doing a membership model? And are you flexible enough to create different products? So can you create a comprehensive compensation program that keeps a staff there? And that, because reality is the average life trainer is less than a year. And
But the question is why? Why does it happen? Because in the old days, back in our old days, that was not the case because there is a change that's happened over the years and COVID accelerated it. So, for example, if we go back to shutting down in COVID when we were classified as non-essential, every entrepreneurial fit pro, we had in our system, in our club system, had to survive and pay their dues, pay their bills.
yeah,
They all left. So they already had the skill sets. They were successful. They're never coming back. Boom, number one. Number two, you had another group that was thrown out into the streets who were not entrepreneurial, but they had to fight to make money to pay their bills. So a lot of those who succeeded, they succeeded. They are never coming back. So we have to create a new generation of fit
yeah,
pros who are much more demanding because they have choices as to why they should come to us, stay with us, and refer their friends to us. Because back in the old days, at Equinox, for example, there was a sense of pride of
yeah.
wanting to belong.
Well,
I've got to work at an Equinox or a Lifetime Fitness
well,
or Sports Club LA. That's
it
gone now.
it was a tiered system. So you had the ability of making more money based on education, so you merit it. It had a staff that had operational visibility of activity, but it also leveraged the membership model into a service model. And I think that's a big disconnect today. If I go in, I walk into a club too, and when I walk in, I have not been a member in ages because I hate to say it locally that I have a better gym in my basement than now. I do like going to clubs to one, observe the business model, two, to try to help them out. I do sell them equipment now today. I've stayed in the industry, but now I'm on the vendor side. But my point of bringing that up is that the owner and operator, like the last gym, well, I take that back. I did join a gym in 2000, local gym, because they were using my client management software system. And I wanted to be present and show that I have skin in the game. I value I thought they were great. They had Techno Gym, but they didn't contact me within the first week for assessment. Okay. I'm leaving the name out of this club, which drove me insane. Within the first 24 hours, that I should have been booked for my services. I get an assessment. I was told I get an assessment. So they're saying this, but they're not following up on it. There's
Right.
not a person being managed because the owner and operator did not have a manager in place, or the manager in place was this part-time individual that wasn't given a checklist, wasn't given like, this is what I expect from you, and this is what I'm focusing in on, right? To change my business. But if it does change my business, then you get incentivized as well. You
Right.
know, and that's where I just don't understand that we're in the 2000s. We have a smartphone, we have this, and then what's the reason for owners and operators to own a business then? Like, why do you get involved in the industry? So I think these are questions that as a trainer I would want to know. And
Right.
when I came to Equinox, and you're talking about like people were fighting and competing, I remember when it was a new experience. It was clean. It was we had a core training section. We had a flexibility training section. We had a Zen room. We had so what we're seeing today is now this model being adopted more and more. You know, we talked about utility and experience. You know, let's talk about business models. We see a Planet Fitness and we see an Equinox. I would say Planet Fitness has high utility. It has because it's at a lower price point and it gets a larger market space. It has all this equipment. They have more members in a location, but the Equinox is a complete different animal. It's luxurious. It has high levels of experience. How does a professional differentiate that, and how does a business owner compete against that?
Okay. The business owner competes against themselves. If they understand the sector, they'll do it well.
Can
If
you
they
repeat
don't,
that?
exactly. If they don't, they shouldn't be in the sector. That's the first problem right there. So the basic four challenges has a common denominator. The club operator, owner, manager has to have a value proposition. And when I say that to owners, okay, what does that mean? I say, give me 8, 10, 12 points, whatever it is, 12 reasons why I should come and join, why I should stay and why I should refer. Articulate that to me, number one, during the interviewing process, the intake process, or in the advertising process to pre-qualify me to walk into the door. Why am I walking into a door? I have to have a reason. If I have a reason, then we're talking. Now we're talking. But if you promise me something as an operator owner, you need to deliver it. And that doesn't only apply to the customers, it applies to the teams, the staff, the trainers, the instructors. So right now, with the new generation coming up, here's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a group of fit pros who don't really have a lot of passion because no one's trained them as to why they have passion. There's no pride. Fire in the belly. Okay, I watched a trainer yesterday at this club. I'm not going to say the club name. He's training a customer. He has no trainer shirt on, though the other trainers have shirts on. So he's dressing any way he wants to. He's wearing his hat. He has his cell phone, his smartphone in his hand, looking at the exercise that he should be doing with the customer from station to station. Okay, as he's chewing gum, very professional, very professional. And I'm saying, okay, what is wrong with this picture? That is not somebody who is an educated consumer. I'm not going to pay for that.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm looking at. So
Yeah.
it's like they see it as a job, not as a career. They're not really customer centric, and they're certainly not entrepreneurial. So that's like broad brush. But then you have another group of folks coming in brand new, the same way. Okay, I have choices. So where do I, to your point, why do I, as a fit pro, want to work for this club? And what I'm seeing with that universe is that these folks love what they do. They want to feel good about what they do. They want to have that feeling coming back from their clients, from their customers. They've got passion, but they want to be appreciated, not just from their customers, which if they do a great job, they'll get that, but from their managers, from their owners, and their operators. Are they getting that today? We may recruit them, but they're not going to stay without that. You know,
Are owners skilled enough though to be able to educate their staff? Because I think that's the limiting factor. Like I was selling for ISSA a list of trainers that were available to be recruited. And my observation from the recruiting side, because I've hired over 500, you've hired probably more than I have, over 500 personal trainers at Equinox. I was counting them, you know. I was there for, 12 years. So a lot of, I saw exactly what you're talking about, but I wouldn't be as successful at what I was doing there if we didn't have tools of engagement. Like I remember the training for the membership staff. They were trained on how to role play with members, how to engage with members, how to like listen active listening, which is like, I mean, it's gone. I think what ended up happening is people value, to your point, this and are communicating through this or through a keyboard, and don't understand the value of this, of us communicating.
Exactly. Okay. To your point, one of my case studies, uh, he's at Lifetime. And
Yeah, pull up,
I'm gonna
pull,
bring this up because
yeah, yeah,
TJ was really
and
critical. He's a perfect example of what I'm talking about.
especially in a new business model, right? Because that's kind of
Exactly.
the
I mean,
shift.
it's just unbelievable. And so this is my guy. I've known him. He's worked for me for years. He's out of Minneapolis. Okay. This is TJ McNiff. So he's a level 5 personal trainer at Lifetime. So he's old school like you and me. Okay? He was trained right. Okay. And this this guy has no desire to go off on his own. He wants to work for a club. He wants to work for a studio. So he worked for a studio for 22 plus years. He only left the studio because they closed up.
COVID.
But here's the issue. He's not a marketing guy. He's not a sales guy. He's a relationship building guy.
Yeah.
He's a relationship building fit pro. So his concern was always, am I charging too much money? My people aren't going to pay it. So he leaves the studio. He goes to Lifetime. His price at Lifetime is 52% higher for personal training than he did at the studio.
Wow.
He took 20 of his customers from the studio there. Not one person said boo.
Wow.
52% increase.
Yeah.
He just built that relationship with them. Then at the studio, they didn't pay a membership. They go to Lifetime paying the Lifetime annual membership. They're all joined Lifetime.
Yeah.
They followed him.
Yeah.
What is it that TJ did in his 22 plus years? He built relationships. And you know where that came from? His Group X background. he was Group X like me.
Yeah.
And he used that ability to engage people, to bring them into his universe, to make them part of his team. And they all supported each other in that process. It was fantastic. Perfect example. For every TJ, there are thousands of fit pros, not only domestically, but globally, in the UK, in the EU, in Asia, all over the world, with that same skill set. We need to bring that back and make more folks be a TJ at the end of the day.
I think
but
each business.
here's
I
the
think
kicker with Lifetime. Lifetime does not hire. Lifetime has a scouting program that recruits talents the way we used to back in the old days. Yeah. Brom has done a fantastic job. Yeah. Their vice president for acquisition of talent, Ifonda. Ifonda's unbelievable. He can tap a talent, identify a talent like that. He's got common sense. He's able to engage. 100% success rate for Lifetime.
It's an understanding of the model, right? It's who's the persona, and what's the ideal value that you're trying to bring into your location.
Yes.
You know, and that's really important. And I think, but it also starts with management top down, right? If you can't get the support, the visibility of this, then the potential benefit of implementing it is not really going to manifest into anything. It's probably just going to create frustration because they're not seeing results. Now, implementing something like this takes the results don't happen within the first quarter, right? You'll probably see this end of year, first year. It'll finish probably stronger than you thought. But the first 3 to 6 months, you know, like you have to consistently keep up with it. You have to have regular meetings. You have to use this in a meaningful way. So this is what you do from a consulting standpoint. You know, it's being task driven, right? It's being disciplined and measuring the proper activities so you get the proper results.
Exactly. Now, to your point, you're right. If it's going to take time to build this up, here's an opportunity we've learned post-equinox. If you have a group exercise instructor who's really dynamic and they do it right, and they desire to expand their business base, the fundamentals of engaging people are already there. All we have to do is train them to be personal trainers. I have consistently across the United States and across the world trained group exercise instructors who are ready to understand and get certified as personal trainers. The blending of the yin yang,
hybrid training. Yeah,
hybrid.
you made me a hybrid. I never thought I would do. I can't do. I don't have rhythm to be doing step or dance classes. But I can teach a boxing class, or I could teach a
There you
yoga
go.
class,
And the
or
issue is,
spinning.
yeah,
So
the ability of dealing with more than one person simultaneously, absolutely. But then your dynamic skill sets go beyond one-on-one. It goes to 2-on-1, 3-7, 8-20. But as you get more experience and more knowledge, and you find the right mentor to get you there, you can hit the ground running a lot faster than waiting for 3, 6, 9, 12 months to make your program get a return on your investment. So my first recommendation to the clubs, I want to meet every group exercise instructor. I want to talk to those folks and see which of these folks already are able to make that transition. They already have a following. They know how to engage people. They know how to create an expectation around a day and a time.
mm-hmm.
They can pull people together. And guess what? They will get folks to pay not for the price, but to pay for the value, because we know how to develop value. And we create a sense of wanting to belong.
Yeah.
And we also create a sense of how to manage, in a positive way, guilt. You got to be able to manage guilt in a nice way.
Yeah.
Not so much coming from me as their coach, but from each other in your group. That's a very unique skill set that very few trainers have, except if they're coming from a group background or have gone beyond personal training to understand the dynamics of group. Absolutely. Yeah.
In implementing this, what are some of the external threats that you feel kind of cause these economic downturns for business owners? I mean,
okay. Now you talk about, okay, here's a personal trainer. I've had a customer 5, 10, 15 years. We have inflation / recession. Bob is the conversation. We've been together for years. I really can't afford one-on-one anymore, which is real. That's real. But if I have the skill sets to take them from one-on-one at one price point for that service to a 2-on-1 option, I'm not discounting anything. I'm offering a different service. The per person price point goes down, but my gross goes up, my net goes up. But Bob, I really can't do 2-on-1. Small group, 3 to 7.
Small group is the way to be.
And then we got it. Now we start to manage. Again, one of my initial 4 points of a challenge or a problem is going gross and net. To the extent I can take my Fit Pros to give them multiple options to give a customer, those customers are not going to leave at all.
But people don't want to manage the accounting. You're throwing out those net profit terms, the accounting. Oh, my God.
That's why when I say one of my 4th big challenges for 2025 is that the operators really don't know how to structure, from a programming standpoint and a pricing standpoint, to protect gross and net group training.
I think they see it. The challenge is which educational group can deliver it. Like there's some examples. Les Mills comes to mind. They do something that you're talking really well in programming. They're not talking about the hybrid model that you're talking about, but I eventually feel like there has to be, I know SCW and your efforts in the last couple of years have been, that's what kind of got you back out onto the playing field again. Because reality, you stepped out of retirement. You were like, I'm done. Because you have a lot of. If there was fur peltings, your whole back wall would be a fur wall. But I know that I know the biggest thing is creating that model for an owner operator. Most gym owners today have a 3 to 5 year plan. They want to exit like any other business owner. Some stay longer, but how do you create, there's some unique models around the U.S. that I think anyone in the industry is aware of it. East Bank, what's the club out of Gainesville, Florida?
You have Midtown. Midtown is great out of
Midtown's
Chicago.
great.
I mean, their
Yeah.
group across the country, they're there.
Yeah.
But,
They've
but,
been there
but
for a
those are the
long
high
time.
ends.
Yeah.
Those are the high ends. There are middle level clubs that can do this right now.
Yeah.
All we have to do is, and I hate to be almost colloquial, think outside the box. Dude, think outside the box. That's all you got to do. And be creative.
Yeah.
There are more talent within our Fit Pro teams that we give them credit for.
Yeah, that's what I think also the employees asking for, right? You have a young generation that is when they come across they're very ambitious to a fault sometimes, but I think that's a good thing if it's focused and paired with the right mentor. And that was one thing that I think I took away from my experience with you was the mentorship program that you did.
Yes.
And I think that's why, for me, I've always stayed in contact with a lot of people like yourself, because that's the mentorship program is like it's more than just coaching. It is like literally like I remember sitting down with you and you're like, well, how many training sessions do you need to do that? Okay. Like, hey, shave, it's like, you're not shaving, like common sense things that like I was a kid at that time, I was 20,
Right, yeah.
like 20, I think 21, 22. So it's just like, it was just, it's the things that you need to like, it's common sense, but like sometimes you got to teach people. It's like, hey, tuck in your shirt. Like common sense things, it's like, I think that's the programming that's missing. And it's really hard for an owner and operator. Like how do they build it into a budget? How do they effectively justify it and feel comfortable with implementing these tools?
So there's two answers here. Number one, we have historically made the mistake across the board, globally, in fact. We take the best personal trainer. Oh my God, this person, this gal, this guy,
Yeah.
he can sell anything. They can run their business. They promote them to be the manager with no training to go from being a great personal trainer to becoming a great entrepreneurial focused fitness manager director who has to manage 5, 10,
Yeah.
15, 20 plus people
Yep.
simultaneously. That's the first mistake right there.
Yeah.
I
I've seen
totally
it
agree
all the time.
that a good trainer is great if they're trained and prepped to be the manager, because the manager has to deliver the mission and the vision and the value proposition of the organization. So if the manager is not appropriately trained, all bets are off. All bets are off. You just can't do that at all. So that's part of that challenge to make this thing go. So to your point, you have to have a team in place that's going to buy into the value proposition, the mission, the vision, the values, put it into the entire culture of the organization, which means you have to train your team, train your staff, and how to deliver it, hold them accountable. But once the value proposition is defined internally, it's embedded in your marketing campaign externally. So my job is to pre-qualify any customer before they walk into the building, because they know what to expect.
Yeah.
And then when they know what to expect, the burden's on me to deliver. If I don't deliver it, shame on me. That's on me. But then my team members had to deliver it as well. So say everything is in place. Where does the change have to take place at? In my model, my issue is that once the Fit Pros are trained, they should be part of the upfront interviewing, onboarding process for new members coming in there. Once we're trained, we should be part of the front end of the engagement process. So we can take that new member and create a vision specific to them that we can share with them to get them to buy into the process.
Buyer's
And
journey.
the vision isn't about price.
Yeah.
It's about how they will succeed underneath our umbrella, our value system, under our mission and our vision. To the extent we can do that, we got them. They're not leaving. But
Business
then,
plan 101.
Bob, that's a sales job. No,
No.
it's a customer engagement job to create a sense of the experience specific to them they're about to take on their journey to success. Bam. We
It's
got
a
them.
playbook. That's your playbook. If you're playing a sport, that's your playbook.
Exactly.
Run the play. That's how it's like.
It's
It's a play. That's really it. It's establishing a solid playbook, and that starts with mission, value, just like what you just. And I
yeah.
think owners and operators should look at this as an opportunity to look at how they're career pathing someone that they're hiring. If they're hiring a group fitness person, you should be thinking about also making them a one-on-one trainer, like you're describing. And the same thing, if you're hiring a one-on-one trainer, like, hey, maybe making him an instructor and another thing that you want to offer in your gym. And it could be small group kettlebell training. It could be, you're talking about different revenue opportunities. So
Yes,
I
and
think you talked about it in the past, like from an omni-channel standpoint.
yes, and you know what? I'm gonna, and I'm glad you said that. I'm gonna bring up another slide because there it is. Okay, this graphic, and again, as we spoke before we started, all these graphics that we have, you can send out to
Yeah, I'll
the
add a
folks.
link, and I'll have and people can
Exactly.
download it.
So this as is an option from a club standpoint. Okay, I'm looking at this. It's our omni-channel business profile. So the career path opportunity, but it's also a service path opportunity for the customers coming in. We have group exercise classes. Okay, depending on your model, it's part of the membership. We have one-on-one. We have two-on-one, small group training, large group training. In this model, I'm looking at a health and wellness coaching option. Now, health and wellness can be delivered either one-on-one, two-on-one, small group, or large group. And I see this as a potential opportunity to service folks who are on various stages of
Yeah,
their obesity journey to success
yeah,
to get off anti-obesity medications.
yeah.
It's a perfect option when,
It,
if we're ready, because
yeah,
the
you bring up
demographic is very specific needs and wants if we're
yeah.
ready. But it's an opportunity.
You're bringing
When
up
we have,
a big trend right now. GLP-1s, I think it presents an opportunity. There's also a risk, right? Here's the
exactly.
opportunity, right? The opportunity is I get to now merge with the healthcare market and make what the fitness industry could maybe help impact the problem that we have with society to today, because there is
Mhm.
a public health crisis.
Right.
That's exactly what we're defining. Um, but it's always been the wild, wild west in the fitness industry.
Yeah.
And it's been slow to standardize, and that was because of the slow to standardize. We've had very little government support. So
Exactly. Exactly
we had
right.
the FIT Act that now is, I'm happy to see, and owners and operators are looking at, I look at that as kind of methadone. The revenue generation model that we have today, that's your heroin. You're trying to get a member today, but you're now going on methadone because you're going to be subsidized more or less from a government, and that's not a bad thing. I think that's a great thing because that helps then bring some cash flow into a business. And crude in phrasing it that way, but that's the reality. I'm not trying to be crass.
Right.
I'm just trying to drive a message with GLP-1s and semaglutides. We need to make sure that they are now strength training, and we need to be educating them. And we're seeing that trend because they're getting rid of cardiovascular equipment.
Right. But here's the challenge, though. There is such a uniqueness associated with folks who are on different stages of their journeys to success that more than anything else, the organization, not just the Fit Pros, but the organizations have to become sensitive to the specific and unique goals, objectives, needs, and wants of folks who are on these meds. Totally different, which begs the point. Training, you got to train. We as a sector are guilty of weight bias. I mean, we are. We always talk about the beautiful bodies, the svelte bodies, the kick-ass, ripped abs.
Yeah,
That perpetuates
yeah,
obesity
yeah. I
stigma.
I had
Terrible.
two trainers I remember on staff that a member was like, "Well, they don't look fit," and I'm just like, "They're one of my best trainers." There's people on waiting lists for them.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know.
Exactly right.
But
So
it is what it is. Unfortunately, you are right. People judge a book by its cover.
yeah, exactly.
In your
So the challenge is,
omni-channel, go ahead. Sorry.
but it goes back to the same thing, value.
Yeah.
So the value proposition, which is what we don't do, is still focused on just the 20%. To the extent that we have an opportunity to go beyond the 20% means that we have to change our value proposition. We have to change our mindset. We have to change our culture to create an environment that's inviting, that's safe, that's supportive, with programming options where one size does not fit all.
Well,
Simple as that. As
well,
simple
what
as
do you
that.
think of the comment of I'm just going to wait until AI shows up to do this?
Wait, say it again?
I've heard. I won't call an owner out, but I'm like, yeah, I think AI is going to change a lot of this, and it's just going to eliminate the need. Because here's the strategy, right? From an owner and operation standpoint, I'm seeing boutique models claim that there's 10 staff members or less, so your operational expenses are lower. And now with the advent of AI, it's going to be three employees or less.
No, no. And here's the disconnect.
Yeah.
AI has a place. AI has value. It's not going to take the place of the human touch. It's as simple as that. It's never going to take the place of the human touch because
Yep.
at the end of the day, I need to understand where my customers' needs, wants are on day one that are going to change on day 90, that's going to change on year 5, that's going to change on year 10.
Yep.
Everything's going to change. Me being aware of that will keep them in their game
Yep.
because of that personal relationship, because we're simpatico. That's key.
Yeah.
And yes, okay, there's a group of folks who will gravitate to virtual training. That's great.
Yep.
That's the exception. That's
Yeah.
not the rule.
I,
The average person, the 80% plus, needs that human touch to stay focused.
Yeah, you're still going to always need a human body.
Yeah,
My point is that I think that's just kind of a not an answer. It was avoiding an answer from
I
the
know
owner
it's
operator.
it's
So
it's,
it's just
it's flippant.
yeah, and it's disappointing because it's like you have an opportunity going back to the public health need with GLP-1s, but you also have a risk once you bring that through your door. We don't know the secondary side effects. Some of them we do. So it's more important if you identify that, and it's a risk now in your gym too as a member. So you need to make sure you educate that member and say, it is vital for you to use my gym at least 2 to 3 times a week regularly for strength training if you're doing this medication.
Okay, the issue is this: strength training may be the ultimate goal, but if psychologically they're not ready for it, the last thing on my agenda is strength training.
Yeah.
That may be the long-term goal, but here's the issue: if they feel comfortable, have at it. Most of them do not. So therefore, I need to get them in my doors. And I'm not going to scare them to death. So Ann Gilbert, for example, she's in Tampa, Florida. She launched this week her anti-obesity medication
I
program.
saw that. Yeah.
And she's been doing it for years. Anyway, before AOMs came out. But her issues, and she's been my poster child for saying you meet the customer where they're at. And the first thing they say is, I'm not going on that fitness floor,
No.
but I'll go in the pool. I'll use the pool with the proper
Yeah.
programming to get them to do what?
Yeah.
To move.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. Once they're comfortable moving, the rest is progressions to get
Yeah.
them there.
I,
To get end game, fine. But right now, I got to get them in front of me. That's the key right there.
I did a presentation years ago that I'm revitalizing, talking about exactly what you're talking about, which is training movement, not muscle. I even wrote a
Right.
blog post about strength training. What is strength training? Because we are so accustomed to doing a barbell, a dumbbell, or selectorized equipment that fitness does not necessarily come from that. Fitness is a broader term. You can get fitness from calisthenics, walking. You can get fitness. Understand that. Train movement, to your point.
Yeah.
Teaching a person how to control their center of mass, how they create force, how they properly move within those planes of motion. Showing them what segmental movement is, identifying some dysfunction. Those are all the things that a good program builds in through screening, through assessment, through a mesocycle, and then that is a packaged service product that you can deliver in a meaningful way and say, I got this programming for you.
Exactly. And that's critical. At the end of the day, the focus is, and I'm looking for a slide since we're talking about, let me see if do I have one on in this grouping.
And I don't know if you noticed on the screen behind me, I was just doing, there's my presentation, trade muscle, trade
Ah!
movement, not muscle. I was just laughing because I was like, I can't believe it. I was like, oh, that worked out.
There we
That
go,
was
right
great.
there. In fact, here it is. I'm going to show you this
Sure.
slide from our standpoint. So Ann and I have been working on think pieces for the past 10
For
months.
obesity
This
management.
slide right here, it's a journeys to success roadmap. So, and
Nice.
in terms of working with folks who are on anti-obesity medications, every journey, every pathway is different because every person's motivation, their goals, their needs and
Yeah.
wants are
Could
all
be a
different.
diabetic,
So
could be a
again, one
cardiac risk
size does
patient.
not fit all. Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
we built this into the concept. So to the extent that clubs don't have programming flexibility to be able to meet those folks where they're at is the extent they're going to fail at the end of the day. So that's going to be
Yeah.
part of that challenge. So
Yeah.
again, it's an opportunity, it's a challenge, but if we're not ready to service these folks, we shouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole because it's going to be
Yeah.
really
I,
ugly and negative.
I saw a really great example where this organization screened people for their strength, their power, their balance, and then functional movement screen as well. It's a subjective measurement. Everyone has their arguments, but they had objective numbers too. Um, I thought what I really liked about it was they color coded their clients. I was about to say patients. And then based on their color, they laid out their gym floor so they could meet the needs of that color.
Right. There you go. Yeah.
So workflow, gym workflow was really mattered. And I just thought, I was like, I never thought about it, but that's how some gyms that I've worked for, like Equinox, set up their gym floor. So did Jack Lane set up their gym floor. Yes, I've worked at a Jack Lane. I'm that old. But it's different. Like you see that today still. If anyone wants to see that old business model, it's Gold's Gym. You see it out on the West Coast. So you're seeing everyone adopt this AOM method, are really now more adopting or accepting of it because GLP-1s are there, like it or not. It
Right.
is, I mean, if you're looking at the stock market, it is a phenomenal stock to own if you got in there early. But I digress. I think that the big takeaway is implementing these things, and I think implementing them. You're obviously you'll have some slides that we'll share with the group, and you'll give us more insight. And if I'll put your contact information in there as well. How does a gym owner get in contact with you? Do you want them to email you? Do you prefer a website?
They can they can email me, and you'll have all the information when you post this program. So you have an email, which is Bob at EsquerreFitnessGroup.com, which is fantastic. We have a website, bobescorey.com, LinkedIn, Facebook. You'll have all those details as well. But as part of the recap to bring it back together, going back to the big four for 2025, again, the consideration is that what did you do in 2024, owner, operator,
Yeah,
manager, FitPro, and what changes did you make in 2025? And as you made those changes, are you watching those changes to see if those changes have been effective? Don't just make the change and let it go. You have to really manage it monthly, weekly, daily to make sure it's on track, which we
yeah,
did back in the old days at Equinox to make sure those changes, we held us accountable, basically. So again,
yeah.
the problems are challenges, which are opportunities. And we can fix anything if we decide to fix it. That's the key. The burden's on us to fix these things.
Yeah, no, I hope people that get involved in the industry understand that they have a public health obligation. The best way to describe it. That's why I do it. That's why I keep doing it. I keep getting involved and staying in the industry in some capacity. Sometimes I think it's it's a challenge, just like any other owner operator
Sure.
business or employee of a company. But I think if we talk about it, we educate each other, and we push for people to get better, um, and professionals equally. I feel like that's really, we got to hold each other accountable,
Exactly.
and be
Exactly
able
right.
to and talk about it more. So I hope people take from this presentation, and if they have any comments, please feel free to leave it in the comment section. The what you took away from this, if you had any other questions for Bob or myself, and what are, before we let you go, what are some events? I know that you're gonna be traveling to. So if you're,
Well, I'll be presenting for SCW this year throughout the United States. So I'll be doing that. The next one is DC Mania coming up at the end of February. And then I'll be attending URSA in Las Vegas so we can meet and greet right there.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
I'll be in Florida Mania in May. And it's on the website, I'll have a list of all our appearances. But again, the easiest way, the timely way is email, website, whatever, reach out, and we can have a conversation. At the end of the day, we as owners, operators, managers, and fit pros, we have to investment spend to be able to get to grow our businesses and make a positive impact to our customers. And again,
but
not to grow our business just in gross, but in net income as well.
I agree. Let's talk about getting a meeting at Health and Fitness this year, because I'll be there as well,
Fantastic. Sounds good.
for Total Gym. So we'll be making a big announcement at that event as well. So um, that's my what I leave my crowd with. You have to wait until
Understood.
March.
Understood. All right,
So
Marcelo.